In 2015, Land Information New Zealand released another nautical charting survey for Doubtless Bay in Northland, New Zealand. Some of the areas hadn't been surveyed since 1970, so they were really due for an update and surveyed to modern standards. So at the moment we're nearing the end of our bench testing and preparation phase for the LINZ Northland projects. We have the bulk of the equipment here in the warehouse in Brisbane, and that's being shipped to Tauranga in New Zealand for installation onto the vessels. It involves the final parts of the bench testing and the packaging and the preparation, export documentation and eventual shipping via sea freight to New Zealand. We selected 2 vessels which we'd used previously, and we mobilised those vessels from Tauranga. We've got a good base of operations there, and it allows us to quickly and efficiently mobilise the vessels and get them ready for the project. Here in Tauranga we're mobilising 2 vessels. We have a 7-metre trailer vessel and a 22-metre offshore workboat that we're fitting identical survey systems to.
Just left the wharf for the first time on the tranquil image during the mobilisation for the Doubtless Bay survey. It's an important part of the project. We're going to put the pole down very shortly. We've got the sonars and the single beams and the motion sensor here. It's the first chance that we really get to test that all the systems are talking correctly together and the data quality is going to work. There's still the further tests to do afterwards, but this initial test is really quite important.
It's been a busy past 4 days, but finally the equipment's on board. It's been checked, it's been installed. We've been out to sea, we've done our wet tests, our calibrations and our check soundings, and now it's time to head north.
Northland area had an abundance of wildlife when we were treated to whales and orcas leaping out of the water and just putting on a real show for the survey team, a real memorable highlight.
In Doubtless Bay we had numerous encounters with dolphins. This is normally an experience that people would like to encounter when you're out on the water. Unfortunately for us, they swum beneath the transducers, which rendered our data that we were acquiring useless.
We tried all sorts of scenarios about coming back at different times or even using another boat to try and lead them off. Ultimately it just took perseverance of going back to the areas when they weren't there. The project area had a combination of some outer areas in the middle of the bays and a lot of coastal areas, so we came up with a 2-vessel solution.
The larger vessel to undertake most of the offshore operations, working into approximately the 10-metre contour line. We then had a smaller shore-based vessel which we would launch at local boat ramps each morning, and we would then work inshore from the areas that the larger vessel had surveyed and up to the drying line.
The survey was challenging logistically. It covered 2 very large bays and a lot of coastal area within those bays requiring launching and recovery of the boat from many different sites.
A lot of the launching locations for the vessel were beach launches rather than concrete boat ramps. One of our solutions was to acquire a tractor.
And this cut down the transit time required of the boat so that we could launch the boat where it was required to work and recover it at the end of the day. During the project, Chile had a massive earthquake across the other side of the Pacific Ocean, but we still suffered the effects of the tsunami up to 0.5 of a metre of vertical tide surge.
And I was actually quite surprised on how much it affected the gauge readings. Some of the inshore tide gauges were getting up to 0.5 of a metre fluctuation.
So we overcame that by looking at the tide data, analysing it and just looking where we were surveying, looking at our tide model and making sure that we were still meeting specifications. We're just about to do a final demobilisation patch test for this project. We do it for longer projects to ensure that data quality is maintained through the whole project. The patch test is about the fine alignment between the motion sensor and the sonars. So we do one at the start, ensure that the data that we're collecting is correct, and we do one for longer projects at the end. It just ensures that everything that we have collected is true and accurate. It's just really ensuring that the data quality is maintained throughout the project.
The intended time frame for the project was about 8 weeks from commencement through to completion, and we achieved that both on schedule and without any incidents.
During the survey, we collected over 3,700 miles of survey data to be processed and checked and reported to Land Information New Zealand.
Yeah, so a major part of conducting nautical charting surveys is assessing the accuracy of the current chart.
Given that Doubtless Bay and Rangaunu Bay were surveyed over 30 years ago, we have encountered numerous objects during our seabed mapping that weren't identified during previous surveys.
I personally found 6 uncharted rocks of significant danger to navigation.
Hazards which could pose a risk to boaties.
We've now been able to include these on the charts that we produce for the client, which ultimately guarantees the safety of navigation through the areas for mariners.
So here on the Tranquil Image, just anchored up for the evening. She's been on task for 36 days and achieved over 2,000 miles of survey. She's experienced no weather downtime, just been working the areas and working the weather, and achieved a lot of good data. She's off home tomorrow for demobilisation and a well-earned break.